Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive into current affairs.
Absolutely.
Especially for those of you preparing for the UPSC exams.
That's right.
Today is January 21st, 2025, and well, we've got part one here of just a whole bunch of different topics for you guys.
Yeah, we do.
We're going to be talking about things from government schemes and disaster management all the way to the World Economic Forum and, biodiversity hotspots around the world.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
So, as always, we're going to go a little bit deeper than just summarizing.
Yeah.
We really want to kind of bring out those insights that can help connect the dots for you guys and really help you understand the issues on a deeper level.
Definitely, and hopefully give you that extra edge you need.
Exactly. And if you find this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.
We appreciate it.
All right, let's jump right in. We are going to be talking about the Startup India initiative.
All right.
And, of course, it's all about boosting entrepreneurship in India. But have you ever thought about the mechanics of that massive fund-to-funds scheme?
Yeah.
It's a huge amount of money. RE's 10,000 crore corpus. But the interesting thing is it doesn't actually directly invest in startups.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting how they've structured it. So instead of directly investing, that money goes to empower these SEBI-registered alternative investment funds, and they're sometimes called daughter funds.
Okay.
And these funds, they're kind of the specialists. They have the expertise to actually go out there and pick the startups that show promise.
Makes sense.
And they use a mix of equity and equity-linked instruments to invest, which actually creates kind of a powerful multiplier effect.
Oh, wow.
The reach of that initial capital goes so much further than if it were just directly invested.
So it's like a ripple effect, but a carefully orchestrated one.
Exactly. Very strategic.
So SEDB plays a role too, though, right? What is it that they do beyond managing this fund of funds?
Yeah. So SEDB, their role is much broader than just managing that money.
Okay.
They're actually tasked with making sure the whole MSME ecosystem is healthy. So they promote cleaner production practices, encourage energy efficiency, and just generally work towards MSME development.
So it's really like a strategic approach.
Exactly.
Aligning financial support with broader goals of sustainability and making sure there's a really vibrant entrepreneurial landscape in India.
Yeah, they're thinking long term.
Yeah. It really makes you think about that long-term impact, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about getting money out there quickly. It's about shaping a sustainable economic future.
Definitely.
All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit to a topic that demands a different kind of preparedness.
Okay.
Disaster management. So when you think of disaster response in India,
The NDRF, the
Yeah.
National Disaster Response Force, they come to mind right away.
Yeah.
They were formed under the Disaster Management Act of 2005, and they're really a key part of India's approach to being prepared for disasters. And what's really impressive is how they can handle so many different kinds of situations, from natural disasters like floods and earthquakes to man-made crises like building collapses.
Yeah, and it's not just about reacting to the disaster that's already happened, right?
Yeah.
They've really expanded from when they first began. They started with just 8 battalions, and now they're up to 16.
16 battalions, yeah.
They draw personnel from all different central armed police forces. They've even helped out internationally in places like Fukushima, in Japan, and in Nepal.
Yeah, they've got a global reach now.
Yeah. So how does that proactive approach come into play?
Well, they really focus on this idea of proactive availability.
Okay.
So they pre-position resources strategically, and they conduct regular training and mock drills so that they can minimize damage and respond much more effectively when something does happen.
Right. So it's really about that preparedness.
Yeah, preparedness and mitigation are just as important as the actual response.
It makes you think about all that goes on behind the scenes, right? To make sure that the response is actually coordinated and efficient when it needs to be. Okay. Picture this: Davos, Switzerland. The World Economic Forum is in full swing.
It's quite the event.
What comes to mind?
Well, the WEF has really evolved over the years.
Yeah.
It started as a European management forum, and now it's this global platform, and they've really embraced the idea of stakeholder capitalism, which is a shift away from just focusing on shareholder profits and looking at the interests of all the different stakeholders involved. Employees, customers, the community, the environment.
That's a pretty big change in thinking. So what was it that kind of spurred this evolution, and how do they go from just, talking about these ideas to actually doing something?
Well, I think major global events like the collapse of the Bretton Woods system in the 70s really broadened their focus.
Yep.
They started tackling these bigger economic and social challenges, and their impact goes way beyond just talk. Consider the reports they publish, like the Global Competitiveness Report, the Global Risks Report.
Oh, right.
These reports, they provide valuable data and analysis, and they actually shape global, regional, and even industry agendas.
So they're really in a position to actually influence change.
Exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
It is.
All right, well, let's zoom in on something a little bit closer to home, but no less impactful, and that's the incredible biodiversity that we have right here in India.
Yeah.
Palamu Tiger Reserve, for example, holds a really special place in conservation history, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's one of India's first 9 tiger reserves, and it's significant not just because of the tigers,
Right.
but because it was the first in the world to actually conduct a tiger census using pug mark counts.
Wow.
It really shows India's longstanding commitment to wildlife conservation, and Palamu's biodiversity goes way beyond tigers.
Yeah, like what else is there?
Oh, you've got elephants, leopards, wolves, sloth, bears, lesser-known creatures like the Indian ratel and the pangolin.
It's like this little microcosm of India's natural heritage all within this one reserve.
It's a real treasure.
And speaking of breathtaking biodiversity, we can't forget about the Great Barrier Reef. Imagine a living structure so vast that it's actually visible from space.
It's hard to even comprehend. The Great Barrier Reef covers a massive 350,000 square kilometers, and it's made up of almost 3,000 individual reefs. Wow.
And the diversity of life there is just incredible. You've got 400 types of coral, over 1,500 species of fish, 4,000 different types of mollusks. I mean, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site for a reason.
Yeah, it really is this powerful reminder of just how grand nature is, but also how fragile it is.
Yeah, that's
Because sadly, both the Great Barrier Reef and places like Palamu Tiger Reserve face threats from human activities and from climate change.
unfortunately.
It makes you think about the responsibility that we have, not just as a nation, but as individuals, to actually protect these treasures.
Yeah, it's a collective responsibility for sure.
All right, well, speaking of understanding complex ecosystems, let's turn our attention to the Indian gray wolf.
Okay.
What makes this subspecies distinct from others?
Well, compared to other wolf subspecies, the Indian gray wolf, they're really interesting. They have smaller pack sizes, they tend to be more nocturnal hunters, and they actually thrive in warmer scrubland habitats.
Interesting. And they're classified as least concern on the IUCN Red List, which, might lead some people to think, oh, they're doing okay.
But does that really tell the whole story?
Not necessarily. While their overall population seems to be stable, they still face some major threats, mainly habitat loss and the fact that their prey base is being depleted.
Right.
So it just goes to show that these broad classifications don't always tell the whole story, and we need to look deeper.
Yeah, you really have to dig into those nuances of conservation.
Exactly.
Speaking of conservation efforts, India recently celebrated the birth of 8 wolf pups in a very special place.
Oh, you're talking about the Bankub Wolf Sanctuary in Karnataka?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's India's second protected area that's dedicated solely to wolves.
Wow.
And it just shows that there's a growing awareness of the need to protect these animals. The sanctuary itself is a pretty remarkable landscape. Imagine rolling scrub forests, rugged hills with natural caves dotting the landscape.
It sounds beautiful.
It is. It's just perfect for wolves and all sorts of other fauna.
Really makes you wonder about those broader ethical implications of creating these species-specific sanctuaries
Yeah, that's a good point. Something to think about.
as we try to figure out all these complexities of conservation.
Definitely.
All right, well, shifting gears again to a global perspective, how does the World Employment and Social Outlook, Trends 2025 report paint the future of work?
So the ILO report projects that global employment is going to grow kind of in line with the labor force in 2024, which means the unemployment rate should stay around 5%.
Okay.
However, there are some big challenges, and one of the biggest is that there are these really uneven trends in labor force participation between high-income and low-income countries.
Yeah, and that unevenness is a little concerning, right? Because it does point to that growing global inequality.
Yeah, it does.
So what are some of the factors that are contributing to this disparity, and what does the report suggest as potential solutions?
Well, the report highlights things like geopolitical tensions, the rising costs of climate change, and unresolved debt issues as some of the major factors impacting labor markets.
Okay.
And to address these challenges, they recommend a multi-pronged approach. Things like boosting productivity, investing in skills training, expanding social protection.
Okay.
And for low-income countries, it's really crucial to leverage private funds effectively.
Yeah, it's kind of a reminder that economic challenges are never really isolated.
Right.
And solutions require that you coordinate efforts on a lot of different fronts at the same time.
Yeah, definitely a complex issue.
Well, let's bring the conversation back to India.
The Krishna River, it flows through multiple states, and it's been a source of tension for quite a while. What's at the heart of this water dispute?
The Krishna River is India's fourth largest river, and its basin covers a huge area.
Okay.
And it supports the livelihoods of millions of people, especially through agriculture. So the challenge lies in figuring out how to share the water fairly, especially in a region that's prone to drought.
Right.
And the recent order from the Krishna Water Disputes Tribunal, too, about water allocation between Telangana and Andhra Pradesh just shows how complicated this issue really is.
Yeah, it really highlights that water is more than just a resource.
Yeah.
It's really a lifeline.
Absolutely.
And managing it fairly and sustainably is absolutely crucial. Couldn't agree more.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground in part 1 here, but we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Tune in for part 2, where we'll be exploring even more topics that are going to be really important for your UPSC preparation.
We'll see you there.
And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.
We appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
See you later. Yeah, these kinds of water disputes really highlight how resource management, regional dynamics, and the need for sustainable solutions all kind of come together.
Yeah, they're complicated.
They are. Now let's switch gears a little bit and look at a different kind of water-related challenge this time on the African continent.
Okay.
Lake Naivasha in Kenya has been making headlines recently, and not for good reasons.
Lake Naivasha.
Yeah.
Yes, that beautiful lake nestled in the Great Rift Valley, known for its biodiversity.
Right. And it's a big economic driver for Kenya too, right?
Exactly. It supports industries like flower farming and fishing.
So what's going on? What's the problem?
Well, believe it or not, the problem is the water hyacinth. Water hyacinth. Those plants with the pretty lavender flowers.
Yeah, those ones, they might seem harmless, even beautiful, but this invasive species is actually wreaking havoc on the lake's ecosystem.
Invasive species can really mess things up.
Well, they can. And in this case, the water hyacinth is growing at an alarming rate.
Yeah, okay.
It forms these dense mats that cover the surface of the lake.
Oh, I see.
And that blocks sunlight, which suffocates other aquatic plants and depletes oxygen levels in the water.
So it's basically choking the lake.
Essentially, yeah. And that has dire consequences for the fish and other aquatic life. It disrupts the whole food chain.
Wow. It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. It has these ripple effects throughout the ecosystem.
It's a reminder that even something that seems small can have huge consequences.
That's right. And the impact goes beyond just the environment.
Oh, how so?
Well, these hyacinth mats can also clog irrigation canals and hydropower systems.
Oh, no.
So it impacts the local economy and the livelihoods of the people who depend on the lake.
It's all connected.
It is. It really shows how ecological and economic systems are intertwined.
Okay, well, let's bring it back to India and talk about the economy, specifically the MSME sector. We always hear about how important it is, but what makes it so crucial for the Indian economy?
Well, MSMEs, which stands for micro, small, and medium enterprises, they're really the backbone of the Indian economy.
Okay.
They create a lot of jobs, promote inclusive growth, and drive innovation.
Right, so we know they're vital, but what are some of the specific challenges that they face in today's rapidly changing economic environment?
Access to finance is a big one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of MSMEs struggle to get loans from traditional banks because they might not have enough collateral or a strong credit history.
So that's where institutions like SIDDB come in.
Exactly. ISDB, the Small Industries Development Bank of India, has been so important in supporting the MSME sector.
Yeah, so what do? How do they help?
Well, they offer a whole range of financial products and services that are specifically designed for MSMEs, things like loans, venture capital, and even equity support.
That's great.
And they also work to create a better environment for MSMEs by advocating for policies that support them and by providing skill development initiatives.
So it's not just about the money.
Right. It's about building an ecosystem where these businesses can actually thrive.
Okay, well, let's shift focus now to a global issue that has huge implications for India, and that's climate change.
Yeah.
What is it about India that makes it particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change?
Well, India has some unique geographic characteristics, like its vast coastline, its diverse topography, and its large population, all of which make it really susceptible to the impacts of climate change.
Okay, like what kinds of impacts?
We're talking about rising sea levels, extreme weather events, water scarcity, and disruptions to agriculture.
Those are some serious challenges.
They are. Climate change is a complex problem with a lot of different facets.
Right.
So what steps is India taking to both mitigate these risks and adapt to a changing climate?
Well, India's made some pretty big commitments internationally, like the Paris Agreement.
Right.
And domestically, there's a growing focus on things like renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transportation, and climate-resilient agriculture.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, seems like it.
It is.
These are definitely crucial steps towards a more sustainable future.
They are.
All right, well, let's zoom in on a sector that's really fundamental to development and economic growth,
Okay.
and that's infrastructure. What makes infrastructure so important for a country like India?
Infrastructure is basically the foundation of a modern economy.
Mm.
It's things like roads, railways, ports, airports, power grids, telecommunications.
Right, the basics.
Exactly. All of those things connect people, goods, and services, which makes economic activity possible and improves the quality of life.
India's made a lot of progress in infrastructure development, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely in recent years, there have been some major advancements.
So what are some of the challenges that are still out there, and what new approaches are being explored?
Well, India still needs to invest a lot more in infrastructure to keep up with its growing economy and population.
Makes sense.
And there's a growing focus on using technology to create smarter and more sustainable infrastructure.
Like what kinds of things?
Think about things like smart grids, intelligent transportation systems, and digital infrastructure.
It's like taking infrastructure to the next level.
Exactly. And those technological advancements have the potential to really optimize how we use resources and make everything more efficient.
Okay, well, let's talk about a sector that's often in the spotlight, especially when we're discussing a nation's progress, and that's healthcare.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest challenges facing India's healthcare system?
Well, India faces a whole range of challenges in healthcare.
Like what?
We've got inadequate infrastructure, a shortage of skilled healthcare professionals, high out-of-pocket expenses, and unequal access to quality care.
Those are definitely complicated issues.
They are, and there are no easy solutions. But India is working to improve healthcare outcomes and make sure that all citizens have access to quality care.
Yeah, so what are some of those efforts?
Well, there have been a number of initiatives in recent years. The Ayushman Bharat scheme, for example, is a big step towards providing health insurance to millions of people.
That's great.
And there's a growing focus on strengthening primary health care, promoting preventive care, and using technology to improve healthcare delivery. Yeah, it's good to see these initiatives taking shape. But, improving healthcare isn't just about treating diseases.
Right.
It's also about fostering overall well-being.
Yeah, that's a really important point. So what other aspects of well-being should we be considering when we're talking about improving healthcare in India?
Well, it really requires a holistic approach. We need to think about mental health, nutrition, sanitation, access to clean water. All of those factors, they're all interconnected, and they play a huge role in overall health outcomes.
Yeah, it's about addressing those social determinants of health.
Right.
Recognizing that health is influenced by so much more than just medical interventions. Okay, well, in today's digital age, there's another critical aspect of national security that's emerging, and that's cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So why is cybersecurity such a pressing concern for India?
Well, as our lives become more and more intertwined with technology, the threat of cyber attacks just keeps growing.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about data breaches, ransomware attacks, phishing scams.
It's scary stuff.
It is. And these threats, they can seem invisible, but they have very real consequences.
So what is India doing to kind of strengthen its defenses and protect critical infrastructure?
Well, India's been pretty proactive about bolstering its cybersecurity framework.
Okay.
The National Cybersecurity Policy provides a really comprehensive roadmap for protecting critical information infrastructure. And we also have the Computer Emergency Response Team, which plays a key role in responding to cyber incidents and coordinating cybersecurity efforts across different sectors.
It sounds like we need a multi-pronged approach to really counter these threats,
Yeah.
especially since they're always evolving.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just the government's responsibility either.
Right. So what role do businesses and individuals play in this?
Well, it's really a shared responsibility.
Okay.
Businesses need to invest in strong cybersecurity measures to protect their data and systems.
Right.
And individuals need to be cyber aware, practice safe online habits, and be cautious about potential scams.
Yeah. So it's kind of like protecting our physical environment.
Exactly. Everyone needs to do their part.
All right, well, finally, let's talk about a sector that I'm sure is close to the heart of every UPSC aspirant.
Okay.
Education. Yeah. What makes education so pivotal to India's development?
Education is the foundation of any society.
Yeah.
It empowers individuals, it unlocks their potential, and it drives progress.
Yeah.
India's actually done a remarkable job of expanding access to education.
That's true.
But there are still some challenges, particularly when it comes to ensuring quality education and equitable access for everyone, no matter their background or location.
It's about creating a level playing field.
Exactly. Everyone should have the opportunity to reach their full potential.
So how is India trying to address these challenges and shape the future of education?
Well, the National Education Policy 2020 lays out a really transformative vision.
Okay.
It emphasizes holistic development, experiential learning, and integrating technology into education.
Sounds ambitious.
It is. It's a really ambitious roadmap for the future. But of course, policy is just the starting point.
Right. So what else needs to happen to create a thriving education ecosystem?
Well, effective implementation requires everyone to work together: teachers, administrators, parents, the community.
Yeah, it takes a village.
It does. It's about fostering a supportive and stimulating learning environment where every child can thrive.
And that brings us to you, our listeners. As future policymakers and leaders, what are your aspirations for India's education system? What changes would you like to see? How do you envision your role in shaping the future of education? It's something to really think about as you continue on your UPSC journey.
And remember, this deep dive is just a starting point. We encourage you to go back to the original sources, explore these topics further, and most importantly, keep asking questions, keep analyzing the information, and keep connecting the dots.
Yeah, your preparation is a marathon, not a sprint. So stay curious, keep learning, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time, best of luck with your studies.